Hello and welcome to the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast. It is Friday, March 25th. In this episode, we're not talking about Europe. We're not talking about anything. We're talking about CONCACAF. Okay, British friends, stick with us. We're going to talk about the USA and Mexico. This is our big game. And Mike, how did you feel? It just ended.
It was the least attractive Mexico team I've ever seen play at Azteca. They were awful. They were so bad that like a third of the stadium didn't even show up. And for those that don't know, Estadio Azteca is basically the highest point in North America, or like close to it. And they built a fucking stadium there, so they have the utmost advantage going there. The U.S. has never won a World Cup qualifier there ever, and yet
I think it actually is one of the highest, like, most attended match of all time is at the Azteca.
Yeah, I mean, they regularly do over 100,000, but it was strange because I've never seen it not completely packed to the gills. And they showed like kind of a shot out view before the
traffic jam.
They cited that there was a huge traffic jam and the people ended up stopped going in, but still, like, there was a lot of people missing. It was really interesting. But U.S. looked good.
Goodish.
Not clinical. Christian Pulisic. We will have some nods to European stars in this.
Yeah. Christian Pulisic of Chelsea.
Yeah, I would say that was awful finishing. The ball is played in. I forget who plays it in, but I mean on the doorstep, and he hits it right at Memo Ochoa, who frankly was probably the man of the match for me, even though I hate that fucking guy.
Yeah, I thought what I kept watching was sort of US. If the US didn't make mistakes, like they played out from the back and made some like full on, if you do this at any level, you lose.
Oh, you're screwed, yeah.
And luckily Mexican players just literally shot the ball over bar. Chucky Lozano shot them into the stands three times.
Yeah.
Stefan, I don't think really had to make any saves. There was some good like one-on-one defending. I think for the U.S. in a 0-0 draw, I thought Zimmerman was probably the best player who stood out. And then there is one extra standout coming on late in the 60th minute. Gio Reyna is a fucking legend.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, but I want
before I get to him, whole goddamn team.
Before I get to him, just uninspired Raul Jimenez, kind of that spotty form.
Dive. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that spotty form we'd seen him with Wolves. He's in the right areas, not anywhere close to the right finish. Chucky Lozano, you already mentioned, was dangerous, but he never really. He had one shot that was really close in the 80th minute or so. But yeah, just nothing with teeth from Mexico, especially at home, was very surprising. And as you mentioned, Gio Reyna comes on the 60th minute, which is great. We hadn't seen him, I think, since the last time we beat Mexico in the Nations League over the summer.
He's so good.
He's incredible. And the thing is that he basically started to make like a FIFA mixtape video in the midfield. He went around like 6 Mexican players.
And not like he went through them because he ran through them. He dusted them.
Yeah,
he took them on and went past them.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
He ends up putting a ball in to number 17. I'm forgetting he came off the bench.
Pre-fork.
Yeah, pre-fork. And I wasn't sure how he physically missed it the way he did. Again, similar to where Pulisic was dead center in front of the net, and he shanked it.
He kind of falls over.
Yeah, but so that makes sense because he would be shanking it like this and wide to the right of the net, which was the far side.
What it looked like to me was that he was trying to pass it back to Reyna.
Yeah,
That's how bad the shot was, and I think that's what Reyna thought. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah. Just put this home, please.
Listen, it wasn't Erling Haaland, that's for sure, right? He's like used to passing the ball to Erling Haaland. He's like, "Oh, this guy will finish this. This will be fine. I do this all the time."
And meanwhile, in the other game of substance in the top of CONCACAF, Canada goes down to 10 men thanks to 2 red cards early from what was this guy's name? From Mark Anthony Kay. In the 34th minute, he gets sent off. That's great for people who bet on Canada. Hi, everybody.
Sorry, brother.
Oh, that's okay. I'm making more than enough of it on hockey right now. Celso Borges puts Costa Rica up right before halftime. They hang on for the win. So our current table is still Canada up top with 25 points, 13 goal difference. The U.S. and Mexico still tied at 22, and here come the Costa Ricans at 19 points and fourth place. And it's all to play for still. The U.S. comes home. They're actually playing in Orlando against Panama on Sunday. I'm not going. Tickets are $225. And I was like, the U.S. is not worth $2.
No, it's not good.
No, it's embarrassing.
Right, that's right. U.S. men's national teams. So, dear English and European friends, one of the things you don't know about American soccer is our biggest club team by far, and the reason, aside from the Premier League, soccer is big here, are two pillars of football. The U.S. men's national team and the U.S. women's national team. We might be the only country in the world where the women actually deserve more money because they actually win.
Yes, the only one. The absolute only one.
Right? So our famous players are, hold your nose, Miss Rapinoe, Kari Lloyd. And so they're famous on that side. And then the men's team has really been the entry for a lot of people into football. Our World Cup in 90 becomes the MLS, and MLS basically almost fails in the first 10 years till we kind of go down to 8, go up to 10. Beckham comes in 2000, I guess, 8 or 9. I don't know when the fuck it was. And we kind of have been growing as a Ponzi scheme since. Basically, the league grows based on people buying teams.
Expansion fees. Yeah.
Right.
And now it's Beckham again, by the way.
Yeah, you guys don't understand this expansion fees. Think of your football teams as McDonald's. And they find a cool place, and it's all about location. If you can prove that your team, if you have a Schmcdonald's or McDowell's, then they'll let you buy in after you've developed a fan base. Like some teams, like for instance, Orlando had a big team that did really well on their own, and then they got the privilege of spending $300 million to be in the league to get a slice of the TV money that doesn't exist.
Yep.
So we have our model here is good for owners, bad for fans. It's very
well. The fans, listen. If you want to say that that's the worst part about MLS for fans, I got nothing coming for you because the product on the field is worse for fans.
But that's the reason the product is bad is because it's not competitive.
It's not it's not competitive because the way that it is run effectively is going wider, not higher. And you're basically creating parity in a league that has very little to no skill to begin with. So rather than having 12 teams where you actually have parsed out whatever talent you do have effectively,
we're gonna have 30.
You now have 28 to 30. Yeah. So it's awfully silly. But
anyway, but that's the sort of basis that actually the US and Mexico live in. They're the two best teams in the region.
But I think the tangent you were going down was that the ticket sales, right? Because the tickets are so expensive. Right, you don't have that over there, right? It's hard and fast. This is the ticket sales. These are the resales. You can't. It's in fact it's illegal, as you, the listener, know. Over here, it is literally there's no cap. Now imagine. Right, in fact, Tottenham is actually Tottenham's a great parallel for this because from what I understand, they have one of the most expensive season tickets in the country. Granted, they're in London, whatever, blah blah blah, new stadium, but the product on the field is certainly not befitting of what they charge. Relative to other clubs. Now, find the U.S. men's national team. Now, I'm talking about secondary retailers, right? So scalpers, if you will, that have been legalized in big business here in the U.S. But even the face value price was like $150 in a small stadium. I've been there. It's nice. It's a good place to see a game. But my goodness gracious, on a Sunday afternoon.
What I was trying to jump up out of was that the U.S. men's national team is used to fund everything. So we charge an arm and a leg. It's like this almost like fake charity. Like, oh, come see the U.S. men's national team in a city near Mexico so we can make a lot of money and have no Americans there.
Right. And very rarely do you have a true home game in the U.S. Ever. There's a few places. I think that they'll do a good job in Orlando just because there's so few seats. Relative to like a football stadium or
and it's Latin, but it's not Mexican.
No.
Right. Anyway,
and there's a lot on the line for the U.S.
Yeah. So. The game itself, our friends in Canada had a hard time, but they're clear. We're excited to see them in. We've got this Mexico game. I would say I have another comment on it in a positive sense. It was a really professional performance. I thought it was strong from the U.S. It was not, aside from those little errors, I would say, there was good control, especially down the last 10 minutes when Berhalter sort of was like, okay, we're not winning this game, but we're definitely not going to fucking lose it. Brings on the extra defender. And it was tight and it was clean. And even though I did see guys get sucked into the ball, I'm like, you're playing with fucking 5 at the back. Why are you going over there? Stay here. And then you see the Mexican guy just run into the space like, you fucking guys. But I think the bigger story is Mexico's bad. Like you said,
Yeah.
they're just, I looked this up. They don't
They're in
even
danger.
have, they don't even have players in Europe anymore. Like they've got
Jimenez and Lozano.
But compared to, I looked it up in the Premier League, in the top 5 clubs, there's more Americans in the top 5 clubs than there are Mexicans.
Right.
Top 5 leagues, excuse me. So, and almost 2-1. I think the U.S. is now in the top 10 of countries in terms of groups. I'm going to look it up right now. But I found that interesting and shocking. Like we in the U.S. have talked about this a lot, but in terms of international, in terms of who's what and makes up the 5 leagues, I think Mexico might be ahead in minutes, but not in players. So I'm going to look at this. In the top 5 leagues, it's Spain, France, Italy, Germany, England. Now, granted, they are the top 5 leagues, but it does sort of say, Spain, England only has 277 players, and Spain has 517. I think Spain has a lot of them outside the world. And then Brazil, which doesn't even have a country in the top 5 leagues, has 106 players. So, but as you go down, the United States is number 22 with 29 players in the top 5 leagues for 21,000 minutes. So Brooks, John Scally, Busio, Sargent. Although Sargent is fucking terrible.
Reyna, McKinney,
Dest.
Pulisic.
I mean, Dest is a big deal.
Dest.
And a couple gold covers. But you don't find Mexico until, let's see, Mexico. Uh-oh. Why can't I write Mexico? Where is it? Oh, Mexico's number 43. There's only 10 players.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
That's nothing.
No, I know. And it bears out because there really is not a lot of impressive talent in that side. It's limp is the way I would look at it.
And it's the same group. It's Jimenez, it's Arejo, it's Vasquez, it's Chucky Lozano, Guardado, Herrera, Corona, Macias. I mean, I don't even know who some of these guys are in the back end. I mean, this is a country of 150 million people. There's only 10 players in the top 5 leagues. To give you a sense of who's around them, it's Slovenia, Tunisia, and Kosovo. Do you know what I mean? Like Kosovo. Let's fucking
the place
now.
That
Granted,
George Bush
Mexico's
invaded.
far away. I get it, and there's probably rules and whatever. But like, Japan has more players than Mexico does.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's bad.
Well, here's some good news for the Mexicans because they have 2 games left. They have Honduras away, and they have El Salvador. So I think that they'll be fine. Mexico and El Salvador at home, which is going to be obviously at Azteca. So they sit in 3rd with 22 points. Effectively, you can say that the line now comfortably is 24. So one more win gets either the U.S. or Mexico in. However, Panama at home and Costa Rica on the road is not an easy draw for the U.S.
Yeah.
So, Canada's home and host.
They're fine.
No, I know. Canada's home and host. And this is, by the way, going off of what you could still be in the 4th spot in the playoff.
Because I think you're going against Peru.
Right. Well, anyway, point being that that's the line. 24 is to get to
we do have to talk about goings on in UEFA land.
Yes, we certainly do because there was some interesting things going on over there as well.
So first things first, this was playoffs. These were second place teams within all the groups. So a lot of teams have already made it. I honestly think that of the whatever, I think it's like 137 teams make the World Cup. There's only like 5 spots left up. And 2 of them, I think, are in Europe. So we had Sweden and Poland. Sorry, not Sweden and Poland. We had, Russia and Poland canceled. Poland advanced. Russia's out. And then Scotland and Ukraine is currently postponed. But we had Sweden go through on go to the next round on a last-minute winner against the Czech Republic. They will face Poland. That's a really evenly matched, and this is to go to the World Cup. And then Portugal defeats Turkey pretty easily. It was a fight. Turkey's weirdly good, then weirdly bad. I can't make heads or tails of them. But we were all waiting for this showdown of Italy versus Portugal. One of them wasn't going to go to the World Cup. But North Macedonia defeats Italy. North Macedonia. Not South Macedonia, not prime time Macedonia.
With an injury time. With an injury time, Alexander Trzaskowski goal in the 92nd minute to break Italian hearts, not just for the first time, for the second consecutive World Cup. The Italians, I want to repeat that, will not be competing in the World Cup, and they will have to wait until 2026. And the last time they were there was 2014. Holy shit.
But look, even crazier. They're European champions. Within the last 18 months, they were on they had like in 2021, in 2020, they were on a 15-game winning streak. It literally, they won the Euros and collapsed. Right? They were on the up. I mean, they were the best, most exciting team in the Euros. We saw a narrative-changing Italian team where you're like, what is this version of Italy? Right. Because this is fun. Like, they're attacking. They're going at people. And even within the context of this game, they put 30 shots on goal. Now, the keeper you would have thought he stood on his head. He did not. These were shots that got blocked, shots that went over the bar, shots that were kicked right into the keeper's chest. They dominated the game, but did not finish. It felt like, as I was watching, I was like, this is what it feels like when Manchester City blows games like they did against Crystal Palace. I was like, oh, God, this is exactly what it feels like. You know you don't have a striker. You know you don't have someone you trust. There are guys that are good for their club, like Ciro Immobile is book it, 20 goals a season, even set the record for goals in Serie A 3 years ago. There were 15 penalties, don't tell anybody. But these guys, when they get to the international level, they just can't score. They took shot after shot after shot. Berardi took 8 shots. Immobile 7. I mean, these guys were peppering the goal and just couldn't get anything through. And it is a shock. I mean, it's a Roberto Mancini, former City. So City's all over the place in this thing. He's gonna just be like, I can't believe it. And then he's gonna go, why don't I have Mario Balotelli? Bring it back to City again. Because you know what? You know who's a sick fuck who doesn't care? Mario Balotelli would have scored that goddamn goal. Oh, you're on mute. I can't hear you, Mike.
So we have 3 spots left for the World Cup out of UEFA. And then I have a question for you, Laurent. It's going to be Poland and Sweden in 4 days. Wales and Scotland, we don't know. That's going to be taken up, and we'll talk about Wales in a moment. That's going to be sometime in June. And Portugal and North Macedonia. I feel like Portugal for that. But what happens to the Russians? Because they're not allowed in. Do they have a spot where did they give it away?
They're gone. Poland.
It's Poland for
them. It was a playoff game. Poland takes that game. They get forfeited.
Right.
So the war shows up. What I want to see more than anything is Scotland make the World Cup. Or actually, you know what? Oh God,
it's Scotland or Wales. Whoever wins that is going to be, and hopefully it's Scott. I don't care about the Ukraine story. I'm sorry. I don't. I'm not participating. But I think because if we can get Scotland at least one more game against the fighting Bales from Wales, that would be must-see television, right?
Yeah, so, Wales. I mean, that's blood feud. That's a crown. That's like. By the way, anyone ever think why England gets to have the UK gets to have 4 teams? No other country has that.
Yep.
It was a deal because they didn't want to get into UEFA, and so the English, being the patriarchal bastards that they are, were like, "We'll join, but all countries must have their own representation." Yeah. And meanwhile, Catalonia is looking at this thing, going, "We'd like our own representation too."
If they didn't though, all right, here's a fun one. If the UK didn't have 4 teams, they had 1 team. How much
Bale
better
still
are
would.
they?
I don't think they're much better because they fight about
Historically? You don't think that they have more than one World Cup in 1966?
Kenny Dalglish and the Scottish team gets them something.
Right.
Kenny Dalglish is like Alan Hansen. These are Scottish players that are
That's
like
what I'm saying.
top level. Like
They've
those
got to
guys
have more than one.
Right, like Scotland made the World Cup in 1986. I mean, Stevie Nicol plays right back. I mean, these are all-timers. Basically, the Liverpool 80s.
Craig Burley.
Burley doesn't make the team. But the thing that even is more interesting is it opens them up to Scottish coaching. And they had good coaching, right? I mean, you could argue that the greatest all-time coaches in soccer history are Scottish.
Yep.
Right? So you've got, things like that. So that's fascinating. Here's another good question for you. Is Gareth Bale going to be the first player? You know how players always just retire from internationals? He's going to retire from club and just be the Welsh guy. He just shows up for Wales.
I love how much he's, and he addressed it in the post game too after 2 goals, by the way.
Awesome goals.
Classes. Like the funny thing is that and let me remind you, in case you've forgotten, listener, this is Gareth Bale, who has had a game-winning goal in not 1, but 2 Champions League finals. Okay. And he is treated, if the fact that he's treated anything other than like a king, and everyone in Madrid worships the ground he walks on, which they don't.
No.
is absurd. It's absurd. Right?
I don't think it's
their best player at the height of that.
I know. I think the thing that happened is there's a couple things. One is the lack of cultural connection. Like he just never jived with them. He's just like, Spanish, why? I don't care. Nope. So there's that. And then I think the second piece is when Ronaldo leaves, he just doesn't. His flaw is that he doesn't become Ronaldo, which nobody can become Ronaldo, right? Sure. So Ronaldo leaves, they expect Bale to step into that space, and he can't do it, forcing them to buy Hazard, and then Hazard is a catastrophe. So they blame him for that. Does he get injured too often? Does he?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
let me just.
Okay. They needed him. We missed talking about the Clásico. It's like they're dying for him. He's not on the bench.
Yeah.
Like Benzema gets hurt, they don't play him. Like,
I just don't understand how you can treat someone who's won you the biggest game in world football twice. How it'll never make any sense to me. But so anyway, he scores 2 goals today.
Good goals.
Great goals. Yeah. He pushes Wales past Austria by himself 2-1. And obviously, as I mentioned, they are into the playoff round now. But he taunts basically Real Madrid with his goal celebrations.
Amazing.
And then in the press conference, someone asked him, "Are you sending a message?" And he's like, "There's no message. They're not worth my time, essentially." And I went, "Oh, just come back to North London where you're loved." The real crime was that he didn't get to play in front of the fans at all last season. Yeah. And he would just get a hero's welcome.
He was really effective. Now, were they garbage time goals? I don't know, but
no, not all of them. He was the highest goal scorer per 90. Highest goals per 90 in the Premier League last season. Yeah. And he had 12 in limited roles. And this goes back to Jose. He was one of those guys who was and then wasn't in Jose's doghouse. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand it. You could never try to understand shit like that. But when he put him out there, he got results more often than he didn't. And I would welcome him back. I would love to have him back.
The thing is now he would be a guy you roll out, right? It's game on the line. You don't want him ahead. You don't want him for Spurs right now.
All the time.
You don't want him ahead of Kulusevski.
No, not at all.
You don't. And you know what? He strikes me as a guy that Conte would be like, "Get the fuck out of here."
Yeah, that's probably fair, but when there's names that get floated around about like Dybala and Bale and players like that.
Dybala's terrible.
No, I know, but that's the thing is that these are guys that you chased 3 or 4 years ago to be that piece, and now they're accent players, right? They're depth
luxury.
players.
They have a term for the luxury player.
Luxury player.
When
you're
good, you add them in. right? When
Right.
you have a core that's strong, the culture's
Right.
strong, you're like, let's bring a little Bale in here. Let's bring a little this. Let's bring a
Exactly.
little
And you
that.
bring those players in. So for when Kulusevski is playing 3 games in a week or Sonny gets hurt or whatever,
Right,
you can
right.
move them around. And that's
What?
something that Spurs, frankly, have never, ever had.
Yeah,
So I'd
they
be
never
interested to
had
see.
that depth. Yeah, yeah. I
But
mean,
all these players are
Lorente.
available
Don't
for
tell me
very
about
little.
Lorente, you fucking cock.
Yeah, Lorente was a luxury player, right? Okay. He scored
Yeah, but he
by
came out.
accident.
He did stuff.
He did do stuff. I think
Yeah,
the most
he would
interesting thing that he did in that Champions League run was in so much
score a
as he
goal
did
with
it.
his fucking arm.
No, it wasn't. It was the way that he disrupted games just by being an aircraft carrier, similar to Marouane Fellaini in the United years. He was a midfielder, but he would just go up because he was 6
But they
foot
just
14.
and that's what all the United fans would get mad about, which was hilarious.
No, I know, and they weren't wrong, but it was disruptive, right? And so that was the whole point, is to create chaos for him.
Let's give some juice to Portugal, the best, most talented small country for soccer in the world, aside from Belgium, who I don't want to hear about Belgium anymore. Okay,
Yeah.
Your golden generation is now bronzed. You're done. You're not winning. Okay, it happened. It's over, right? Because their defense is still Vertonghen and Alderweireld. I'm like, this isn't happening.
Yeah.
You guys are done. So that's that. But what I find interesting about Portugal is they still play Ronaldo and they can't not play him, and he fucks up their whole team. That team is so good, and Ronaldo at this point holds them back. Like Jota scored goals. I mean, the Turks almost blew it. They missed a penalty. But that team is like let's get them into the tournament again. Let's see where they are. But they are like on cycle number 3 with the same coach who looks like he's going to die. He's gray-haired, looks like a crumpled brown paper bag that's smoking. I don't know his name. But they're another team. So the big boys will be there. What I'm hoping for in the World Cup is your Wales and your Scotlands, and
one of them's going to go and one of them's not. So
yeah. I don't see Poland beating Sweden. Sweden's good.
Ginger from Sweden is going to score the goal for them to put them into the World Cup.
I love Forsberg. I love Itzhak. He set up the goal. It was really, really strong stuff.
And let's talk a little bit about how this is officially the last time we're going to have, and they said it on the broadcast of the USA-Mexico game, but the Poland versus Sweden, the Portugal versus Italy, which we were expecting, right? All those teams are going to be in 2026 because it's an expanded field, a dramatically expanded field. And
but it'll just push it down to the next group of people. It'll be Macedonia. It'll be
That's not look. In so much as Macedonia were the party poopers in Euro, and they I forget who they beat, but they were the crazy upset, which was fun.
They beat Germany
for a day. That's right. Thank you. All of the games are going to be like that now. Like I shouldn't say all the games are going to be like that, but that's going to be the focus. Think of it like we're watching the relegation race, right? We're going from the top 4 race to the relegation race. I think that's a good way to think of it, because you're going to be talking about the Burnleys and Watfords rather than the Tottenhams and the Arsenals. So, I mean, do I think that that's better? No, at all. No, I don't at all, because you're effectively watering down the product. And additionally, look at CONCACAF, right? What we were saying tonight was that this is going to be realistically the last competitive World Cup qualifier between the U.S. and Mexico, probably ever. So I was kind of sad to think about that.
Well, I mean, I think.
But great, Costa Rica versus Panama is going to be all the rage now. Fuck that, dude.
No, this semifinal.
And if you think I'm paying $150 then for a game that doesn't mean fucking anything, you're out of your bird, U.S. soccer. People will.
So I'm not. So I'm trying to figure out this. This Wales. So Sweden's playing Poland. Okay. Who does Wales? Oh, Wales plays the winner of
Scotland or Ukraine. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes more sense. It's just not listed there. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, for fuck's sake, Italy! God damn it! What a fucking clown car. For those of you who don't know, let's just get the UEFA who's in: Belgium, Croatia, Denmark, England, France, Germany, Netherlands, Serbia, Spain, Switzerland. No weirdos there. Just happen to be looking at the group, and that's who's in the World Cup right now. And we're waiting from Europe.
And we're going to get a little bit more about this.
I can't figure out the rest of it.
We're going to get a little bit more about this over the next 4 days. As we said, CONCACAF finishes theirs. So that should solidify. And we're going to learn a little bit more about these teams. And then we're going to realize that the World Cup is almost 7 months away, and we're all going to be really confused.
Yeah, it's gonna be like it's gonna feel like it's going to feel like the behind closed doors season that was bizarre and started.
I hope not, but it is, isn't it?
Oh, we have another thing. We have to pour a little out for referee Mike Dean.
Oh, that's right.
who's leaving the Premier League after 22 seasons. I've heard him interviewed. Listen, it goes back to that funny thing we talk about. There's so little to talk about with football sometimes that we do have to talk about silly things like referees and how they act. They're part of the fabric of the show, right? There's only 10 of them. We know who they are. They all drive us insane. But I was reminded that they're actually really, really good, as much as they drive us nuts. In watching the NCAA basketball tournament and how people complain about referees in the NBA, when you watch a league lower, you really find out how bad it is.
Yeah.
Or you watch CONCACAF and you're like, what is going on?
I actually thought the referee tonight was quite good, but your point is well taken.
He gave a yellow card for diving, which was
I enjoyed that. I always, when I think about umpires and poor displays of umpires or referees, my mind goes to the Little League World Series all the time, because you watch, first of all, these kids keep their composure. They're 12 years old. They're on national television. And the guy just calls a strike 6 inches into the next batter's box. And you're like, what the fuck? I couldn't hit that with 2 bats, asshole. And so for those that don't know, it's a 12-year-old baseball championship that takes place in a small town in Pennsylvania.
It's very cool.
And it's very cool. And they fill up. There's like 10, 15,000 people who come see this. It
would be like if there was a U12 World Cup of England.
Right, exactly. And it's annual, right? And there's an international side, and then there's the England side, right? So you watch teams from your hometown and cities basically compete against others, and then you play the best team from Japan usually, right? So
Taiwan.
Or Taiwan, right? It is interesting. But you get these volunteer umpires. They always brag about this, right? They're always like, oh, these guys, they're not doing it for the pay. They're doing it for the love of the game. I'm like, well, maybe you should fucking pay them, because they're horribly bad at their job.
It shouldn't matter.
But they're nice guys. But like, dude, that almost hit the backstop and you called it a strike. Like, I don't understand what's going on here.
As a person who watches USL San Diego games, we lost in El Paso this week on Wednesday. Let me tell you about bad refereeing. I mean, the thing that's nice is like you're at the game and there's no VAR. Like VAR is a scourge. And like there was a moment in the Macedonia game where they were checking a handball after they scored that goal. Could you imagine if they chalked that off? I mean, they would have called NATO to fucking bomb
that. They would have been like, we want in on NATO, and then Putin would have invaded.
Can you give us MiGs from Poland? No. Yeah. Oh, you can't? Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Jesus. I hate joking about war, but I don't know what else to do.
You always joke about war, just not contemporary war. That's your problem.
Yeah. But I'm not like dusting off my Desert Storm shit. Like I'm not storming Norman Schwarzkopf. That guy's not funny. They had that shit on lockdown. You need stuff to be known, otherwise it's not funny.
Yeah.
Although Abu Ghraib prison, that's pretty funny when they made those guys dress up in like clan hoods. That's not funny either.
Jesus. We're going off the rails. We're only 33 minutes in. I don't know what the fuck.
It's late. Right. We're tired. We're doing a short episode. We're gonna get back at it. We're gonna finish up. Mexico sucks. USA #1. Let's go, France. Let's go. No, I was going to say something, but I'm not going to say it. That was the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast with Mike Salerno and Laurent Cortines. We are the football wing of the Chop Sports Network. We record on Tuesdays and Fridays, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast so you never miss a show. And please write reviews. We need them. Even if we're bad, even bad ones. No, don't write any bad ones. Only good ones. All right. Bye.
If you've gotten this far, write us a bad review. We will love it.